Hello, friends! Before we dive into today's powerful lesson, don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends and family, and drop a comment below with your thoughts or questions about Trump's speeches, especially if you've ever wondered what's really behind his words. Today, we're going to explore something crucial, a social media post recently shared by former President Donald Trump on his platform, Truth Social. This post is more than just a political message, it's a strategic communication piece filled with rhetorical techniques and persuasive tactics. We'll analyze how this message reflects Trump's propaganda strategy, and how understanding the language used can reveal the hidden structure of power behind it. Whether you're interested in politics, communication, or just want to know how public figures influence the masses, this is a lesson you don't want to miss. So hit that like button, share this with someone who needs to hear it, and get ready to uncover the secrets behind Trump's words. To provide a solid foundation for this analysis, it's important to understand the academic background behind the insights shared here. The lecturer brings a robust combination of expertise in literature, journalism, theology, and advanced degrees including a master's and PhD in linguistics. This multidisciplinary education provides the tools necessary to deconstruct political discourse not only from a linguistic perspective, but also through the lens of media studies, rhetoric, and psychological operations. This background allows for a detailed and systematic approach to analyzing public communications, especially those designed to persuade, manipulate, or mobilize the masses. With strong foundations in text analysis and discourse studies, the lecturer is equipped to decode the strategic use of language in political environments and explain how power is exercised subtly through speech. The goal is not simply to interpret what is said, but to reveal the deeper structures behind it, the linguistic strategies, rhetorical framing, and communicative intentions embedded in seemingly simple phrases. This academic preparation is what enables a high-level breakdown of the speech and a meaningful understanding of the forces behind the words. The social media post shared by former President Donald Trump serves as a carefully constructed piece of strategic communication. In it, he states, "Now that we have achieved peace abroad, we must finish the job at home by passing the big and beautiful bill as quickly as possible. It will be a historic gift to the great people of the United States as we begin the 250th anniversary celebration of our country." This statement is not casual, it is deliberately designed to frame the political moment as one of national unity, progress, and urgency. Trump links the success of international peace efforts to the need for immediate legislative action at home, subtly implying that his leadership is the reason both are possible. He further elevates the proposed bill to the level of a patriotic symbol, calling it a historic gift and tying it directly to the nation's 250th anniversary. By doing so, the legislation becomes more than a political measure, it becomes a marker of legacy, unity, and national pride. Moreover, Trump declares that the country is entering a golden age, a phrase loaded with emotional and historical weight, evoking images of prosperity, peace, and strength. This rhetorical move positions him not just as a political actor, but as a visionary leader guiding the nation into a new era. The message also includes a subtle but powerful call to action directed at US senators: lock yourselves in a room if necessary, don't go home, make the deal this week. This language creates a sense of crisis and urgency, placing pressure on lawmakers while simultaneously reinforcing his image as a decisive leader. Finally, the phrase "Make America Great Again" is invoked once more, reinforcing his brand identity and linking this call for legislative support to a larger, familiar nationalistic narrative. This strategic framing turns a simple post into a complex web of persuasion, symbolism, and ideological positioning. One of the most striking elements in Trump's message is the use of the expression peace and security, a phrase that carries deep political, rhetorical, and even prophetic resonance. In his statement, Trump declares that the United States has established peace abroad and is now ready to pursue domestic prosperity and stability. He promises that the country is entering a golden age, a time of protection, safety, and unprecedented prosperity for all citizens. However, this language is not merely inspirational. It carries biblical and eschatological undertones. In Christian theology, particularly in interpretations of 1 Thessalonians 5 verse 3, the phrase peace and security is viewed with caution. That passage warns, while people are saying peace and safety, destruction will come on them suddenly, a reference that evokes the Antichrist's deceptive promises of false peace. By echoing the phrase, peace and security, the message is not only constructing a political vision but also tapping into a symbolic and spiritual narrative. To the informed or spiritually conscious listener, this choice of words may raise red flags. The document even includes commentary noting that this is the slogan of the Antichrist, highlighting the apocalyptic connotations that can be drawn from such terminology. Thus, this is more than a policy announcement or motivational language, it's a discursive strategy that blends political communication with ideological and prophetic frameworks. Whether intentionally or not, the invocation of peace and security carries weight that goes beyond geopolitics. It enters the realm of psychological and spiritual influence, embedding a message that feels both promising and ominous, depending on the lens through which it is viewed. To interpret Trump's message at a deeper level, the lecture applies concepts from the French School of Discourse Analysis, particularly the framework developed by linguist Dominique Mengenot. This academic approach provides the tools to unpack how language constructs power, identity, and social narratives through speech. Several key concepts are employed. Scene of enunciation. This refers to the situation in which the message is produced and the communicative reality it creates. In Trump's case, he constructs a scene where he is simultaneously addressing the US Senate and the American people. By doing so, he invents a scenario in which he holds direct, unmediated authority, creating the illusion of speaking personally to both lawmakers and citizens. Discursive ethos. This is the persona or image that the speaker constructs through language. Trump positions himself as a charismatic leader, a patriotic figure who transcends political divides and seeks the common good. Through rhetorical choices, he portrays himself not only as a president but as a defender of the nation, someone with both moral and political authority. Topos. This concept refers to the underlying cultural or logical commonplaces that structure a discourse. Trump draws from American values such as exceptionalism, national pride, and historical legacy, rooting his message in both the past, 250 years of history, and the future, a golden age. These cultural anchors give his rhetoric emotional and ideological weight. Interdiscourse and communicative contract. Trump's language also operates within a broader web of discourses already familiar to his audience: nationalism, prophecy, urgency, and destiny. He invokes shared cultural narratives to build rapport and consolidate ideological cohesion. The communicative contract here is implicit. He speaks as a leader assuming the people are ready to follow. The French discourse analysis framework reveals that Trump's message is not simply persuasive, it's engineered. It is meticulously built using linguistic structures designed to project authority, unity, and urgency. These elements are not accidental, they are part of a broader strategy to shape public perception, mobilize support, and reinforce the legitimacy of his leadership. By analyzing this text through these academic lenses, we can see how language becomes a mechanism of influence, one that operates beneath the surface of the words themselves. A central argument in the lecture is that language is not just a tool of communication, it is the foundation of knowledge, science, and perception itself. Everything we understand about the world, every structure of power or belief, is built and mediated through language. The speaker emphasizes that language precedes and shapes every field of knowledge, whether in philosophy, science, theology, mathematics, or geopolitics. Language is the system through which we express, conceptualize, and even invent reality. Without language, knowledge cannot be created, transmitted, or questioned. To illustrate this, examples are given of phrases that make grammatical and semantic sense but refer to non-existent entities, such as "the current king of France is bald" or "I bought a round square." These statements are linguistically valid, yet refer to nothing in the real world, demonstrating the distinction between meaning, sense, and reference, a concept explored by philosopher Gottlob Frege. The key insight here is that language can create illusions of reality. For instance, by simply stating "we are facing a global threat" or "we are entering a time of peace," the speaker fabricates an entire emotional and psychological setting. Whether these scenarios are real or not is secondary, the language alone has the power to shape perception and trigger responses. This mechanism is particularly dangerous and powerful in political discourse. Through language, one can manufacture urgency, crisis, or harmony, positioning oneself as the solution to a problem that may not objectively exist. Thus, understanding the nature and structure of language equips individuals to protect their minds against manipulation. When people fail to distinguish between linguistic construction and objective reality, they become vulnerable to rhetorical influence and ideological control. In short, language is not neutral. It is a powerful instrument of invention, and those who master its use can shape both public thought and collective reality. One of the most powerful insights presented in the lecture is the idea that language has the capacity to invent entire realities. This is not a poetic exaggeration, it's a concrete mechanism used in political communication, media, and even everyday speech. The lecturer explains that simply by speaking, a person can create a scenario that shapes how others perceive a situation. For example, opening a video with the statement "We are facing a global threat" or "We are entering an age of global peace" immediately frames the conversation within a particular emotional and psychological context, regardless of whether that context exists in the real world. This technique is referred to in linguistic theory as the construction of the scene of enunciation, a concept in which the speaker, through language, creates a world in which the discourse takes place. It becomes a kind of narrative stage where the speaker plays a chosen role: leader, friend, parent, hero, and the audience is assigned corresponding roles: followers, children, citizens, etc. In Trump's message, this is exactly what happens. He builds a fictional scenario where he is simultaneously speaking directly to US senators and to all American citizens, as if he were physically present in the Senate and, at the same time, addressing the entire nation. Through language, he collapses distance and hierarchy, projecting intimacy, urgency, and authority. Moreover, by delivering this message on his own social media platform, Truth Social, Trump reinforces his control over the narrative environment. It's not just what he says, it's where and how he says it that amplifies his perceived power. He is speaking in a digital space he owns, crafting a message that places him in command of both the scene and the solution. Through this rhetorical strategy, Trump creates a manufactured sense of crisis, the urgency of passing the bill, and simultaneously presents himself as the sole problem solver. The invented scenario becomes emotionally real for many listeners, even if its factual basis is weak or constructed. This process underscores a core principle of discourse studies: language doesn't simply describe reality, it actively creates it. And when used skillfully, as in this case, it can mobilize emotions, drive action, and manipulate perception on a massive scale. In this section, the focus turns to how Trump deliberately constructs a political and emotional scenario through discourse, using language to shape perception, urgency, and control. The scenario he builds in his Truth Social post is far more than a message, it is a strategic simulation of leadership, crisis, and resolution. Trump presents himself as a charismatic leader, directly addressing both the US Senate and the American people. Through his wording, he creates the illusion that he is simultaneously present in the Senate chamber and speaking intimately to over 300 million Americans. This blending of proximity and authority amplifies the emotional resonance of his message. The platform where the message is published, his own social network, further strengthens his control over the narrative. By delivering the speech in a space he governs, Trump operates from a position of dominance, curating both message and medium. This situates him not merely as a communicator, but as a narrative architect. The constructed scenario includes three key rhetorical layers: crisis and urgency. Trump urges lawmakers to act immediately, saying they should not return home until the bill is passed. This imposes a sense of imminent pressure on decision-makers and the public alike. Heroic role. He positions himself as the only one capable of solving the crisis, emphasizing his leadership and painting himself as the protector and savior of the nation. Controlled environment. By shaping the discourse on his platform, Trump is able to dictate the terms, tone, and structure of the dialogue, avoiding external framing or media distortion. This entire scene is a manufactured communication ecosystem, where the boundaries between reality and rhetoric are blurred. The sense of emergency, the moral high ground, and the personal connection to both lawmakers and citizens, all are elements strategically invented through language. Ultimately, this analysis shows how Trump's communication is not just persuasive, it is engineered performance, designed to influence behavior, consolidate power, and maintain narrative control. By doing so, he not only informs but immerses his audience in a world of his own construction. A fundamental element of Trump's rhetorical strategy lies in the construction of his discursive ethos, that is, the identity or persona he creates through language. In discourse analysis, ethos refers to how a speaker presents themselves to an audience, deliberately shaping perceptions of their character, credibility, and authority. In the Truth Social post under examination, Trump carefully builds an image of himself as a strong, authoritative, and patriotic leader, not merely fulfilling the duties of office, but embodying the will and strength of the American people. He speaks not as a distant political figure, but as a guardian of national destiny, someone who rises above party lines and speaks for the greater good. Several linguistic strategies contribute to this self-portrayal. Patriotic language. By invoking the phrase "Make America Great Again," Trump ties himself to a broader national movement. This slogan is more than a catchphrase, it is a symbol of his ethos, projecting him as the defender of American greatness and the restorer of national pride. Assertion of past success. Trump references achievements like, "We have established peace abroad," to build a narrative of competence and effectiveness. These statements are not neutral observations, they serve to portray him as someone with proven results, someone already delivering on promises and thus deserving of further trust. Voice of the people. He casts himself as a representative of the great people of the United States, signaling unity and shared purpose. Through this, he constructs an image of being on the side of the people, reinforcing an ethos of proximity and solidarity. Moral authority and urgency. Trump commands lawmakers to act immediately, not to rest until the job is done. This kind of language reflects moral urgency, painting him as someone with a deep sense of responsibility, a leader willing to push others toward action for the sake of the nation. What emerges is a carefully curated persona, a strong, benevolent figure who blends military-style command with emotional appeal. This is not the ethos of a bureaucrat, but of a mythical hero president, deeply tied to national identity and moral righteousness. By controlling how he is perceived through language, Trump ensures that he is not merely heard, he is believed, followed, and remembered. His ethos is not accidental, it is designed to position him as irreplaceable, as the only one capable of leading America into its so-called golden age. Another key element of Trump's rhetorical strategy lies in his use of topos, a concept in discourse analysis that refers to the cultural, temporal, or ideological place from which a speaker frames their argument. It involves anchoring a message in shared values, national myths, or symbolic moments in history to enhance its legitimacy and emotional impact. In his Truth Social post, Trump strategically places his message within the symbolic framework of the 250th anniversary of the United States. By invoking this historical milestone, he is not simply talking about a bill, he is embedding the legislative agenda within a moment of national reflection and pride. The topos here is the greatness and longevity of the American experiment, reinforcing the idea that this is a defining moment. But Trump doesn't stop there. He stretches this topos into the future as well. While he references the 250 years of past achievements, he also speaks of the golden age that lies ahead, a period marked by security, prosperity, and unity. In doing so, he places the audience in a continuum that stretches from the founding of the nation to an imagined ideal future, creating a powerful sense of national destiny. Another aspect of this cultural anchoring is Trump's invocation of the great people of the United States. This language transcends divisions, political, racial, religious, and constructs a unified national identity. It erases fragmentation and invites all citizens into a shared collective narrative, where internal conflict disappears in favor of patriotic common ground. Furthermore, Trump draws from deeply rooted American cultural values such as exceptionalism, the belief that the United States is unique and destined for greatness. Manifest destiny, a historical ideology that sees America as chosen to lead or guide the world. Progress, the constant movement toward something greater, in this case, a new golden era. By tapping into these cultural myths and anchoring his message in both historical significance and future glory, Trump gives his proposal a transcendent purpose. He is not just promoting a policy, he is situating it within a grand national narrative, making resistance feel unpatriotic and support feel like a historical duty. This use of topos transforms political messaging into cultural storytelling, allowing the audience to feel as though they are part of a legacy far larger than the present moment. Beyond rhetorical and linguistic strategies, Trump's message also incorporates elements from the field of psychological operations, communication techniques studied within military and intelligence contexts, designed to influence behavior, emotion, and perception. Two key tactics stand out in his discourse: targeting and framing. 1. Targeting. In psychological operations, targeting refers to the process of identifying distinct audience segments and tailoring messages accordingly. Trump executes this precisely by addressing two separate groups within the same message. U.S. senators, to them, he issues direct orders. He tells them not to go home, not to take vacations, and to finalize the bill immediately. This language is urgent, commanding, and designed to exert pressure on decision-makers. The American people, to them, he offers promises of benefit, peace, prosperity, and a glorious future. This portion of the message appeals to emotion, unity, and hope, reinforcing trust and admiration for his leadership. By crafting different messages for different audiences within the same communication, Trump creates a dual-channel persuasion strategy. One group is pushed through obligation, the other pulled through aspiration. 2. Framing. Framing is another core principle of psychological operations and media studies. It involves defining how an issue is presented so that it shapes how the audience interprets and emotionally responds to it. Trump frames the approval of the big and beautiful bill not as routine legislation, but as a historic act of national renewal, a symbolic gesture tied to the 250th anniversary of the United States. By embedding the bill within this larger narrative, he transforms a political process into a patriotic duty, elevating it far above its technical details. This framing creates binary emotional outcomes. If the bill is passed, it is a victory for the people and the future. If it is delayed or rejected, it feels like a betrayal of the nation's destiny. Through these psychological strategies, Trump positions himself as both commander and savior, using urgency, identity, and symbolic resonance to drive emotional and behavioral outcomes. These are not simply persuasive techniques, they are calculated cognitive maneuvers, aimed at influencing how people feel, act, and remember. By blending political messaging with psychological operations, Trump's discourse moves beyond ideology and into the realm of mass behavioral influence. Trump's message is not only a rhetorical and psychological construction, it also demonstrates a deliberate media strategy, specifically aligned with the theory of agenda setting. This concept, developed by Maxwell McCombs, suggests that the media may not tell people what to think, but it does tell them what to think about. In his Truth Social post, Trump performs the role of agenda setter by emphasizing the urgency and centrality of the big and beautiful bill in the national conversation. By associating the bill with the celebration of the 250th anniversary of the United States, he transforms it into a symbolic priority, thereby reframing the nation's political focus. This technique redirects public attention away from other pressing or controversial issues surrounding his administration. Instead of debating criticisms or internal problems, Trump guides the narrative toward a heroic legislative effort, making it seem as if nothing else matters more at that moment. The strategy follows a simple but powerful structure. Create a unifying theme, national celebration. Link it to a concrete political action, passage of the bill. Establish urgency, act now, no vacations until it's done. Reinforce it through repetition and emotional appeal. By doing this, Trump not only dominates the news cycle but also narrows the range of acceptable public discourse. The public, media, and lawmakers are pushed to focus on what he defines as important. This is a textbook application of agenda setting, creating narrative dominance. Furthermore, by broadcasting this message on his own media platform, he bypasses traditional filters and ensures that the narrative remains uncontested and uninterrupted. This closed-loop ecosystem strengthens his grip on the public's attention and enhances his role as the sole curator of national priorities. In summary, Trump's use of agenda setting transforms political messaging into strategic distraction and narrative control. It's not just about what is said, it's about ensuring that everything else is forgotten. An important dimension of the discourse analyzed in the lecture is its intersection with biblical prophecy and spiritual symbolism. Trump's use of specific phrases and the context surrounding his message suggest an underlying layer that resonates with religious narratives and eschatological themes, particularly the notion of a false or deceptive peace. Central to this idea is the expression peace and security, a phrase that appears in Trump's message and is also echoed in statements by U.S. media officials and international diplomatic efforts. While politically framed as a message of hope and diplomacy, this wording holds deep prophetic significance for those familiar with Christian scripture. Specifically, 1 Thessalonians 5 verse 3 warns, "For when they shall say, peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them." This passage is often interpreted by theologians and prophecy scholars as a warning about false peace preceding global upheaval, associated with the rise of the Antichrist. In this context, the phrase peace and security functions not merely as political rhetoric, but as a theological signal. The lecturer highlights that some observers have identified this very phrase as a potential slogan of the Antichrist, cautioning that what appears to be a new era of peace could, in fact, be a prelude to sudden chaos or judgment. Supporting this interpretation are references to global agreements and visual propaganda, such as public posters in Tel Aviv promoting peace in the Middle East, diplomatic advancements like the Abraham Accords, announcements of peace between Israel and Gaza, U.S. proposals for nuclear negotiations with Iran, emerging coalitions involving Arab nations and Israel. These developments are positioned as evidence of a rapidly unfolding peace narrative, one that appears increasingly universal, inclusive, and celebratory. Yet, when viewed through a prophetic lens, this narrative may also carry spiritual warnings and apocalyptic implications. The implication is that the public must remain vigilant and discerning, recognizing that language used in political discourse can carry dual meanings, one on the surface, and one hidden within layers of religious and symbolic context. In sum, Trump's discourse, and its global reception, reveals a convergence of geopolitical messaging with prophetic imagery, reminding audiences that words like peace may not always mean what they appear to mean. A significant part of the lecture is dedicated to highlighting how the narrative of global peace is not only being constructed through words, but also reinforced by real-world diplomatic movements and strategic media propaganda. These developments are presented as more than political events, they are part of a coordinated effort to shape public perception. The lecture references several high-profile peace initiatives that align with Trump's rhetoric, including the Abraham Accords, which aim to normalize relations between Israel and various Arab nations, diplomatic agreements between Tel Aviv and Gaza, reportedly involving Egyptian and Emirati participation in managing the Gaza Strip, reports of Syria and Saudi Arabia joining the peace efforts, the US offering $30 billion to Iran as part of a proposed civil nuclear agreement in exchange for rejoining negotiations. These agreements are framed within a powerful visual and symbolic campaign. One striking example is a billboard in Tel Aviv, displaying Trump surrounded by Middle Eastern leaders in a scene reminiscent of the Last Supper, symbolically portraying him as a messianic peacemaker. The slogan reads, "The Abraham Accords, it's time for a new Middle East," a message that blends political promise with quasi-spiritual messaging. Such imagery and diplomatic moves serve a dual purpose. Political legitimacy. They portray Trump as a successful global negotiator, enhancing his credibility and legacy on the world stage. Mass messaging and symbolic power. Through media and public campaigns, these agreements are cast as steps toward a new, harmonious global order. The symbolic language, New Middle East, peace, security, is carefully chosen to resonate emotionally with both Western and Middle Eastern audiences. However, within the lecture, this entire narrative is presented with caution. The lecturer emphasizes that while the world appears to be moving toward peace, such efforts may simultaneously serve a deeper agenda, one that aligns with apocalyptic prophecy or global control mechanisms. The convergence of diplomacy, visual propaganda, and symbolic religious language creates a scenario in which peace becomes a brand, strategically marketed to the public. And in this constructed peace narrative, Trump is elevated not just as a politician, but as a central figure in a global transformation. This layered approach, blending policy, media, and prophetic symbolism, reveals how peace can function as a persuasive device, appealing to emotion while possibly concealing more complex and long-term geopolitical intentions. As we've seen throughout this analysis, language is far more than a means of expression, it is a strategic tool of power, persuasion, and perception. From rhetorical techniques to psychological operations and symbolic messaging, the way words are used can shape reality, construct crises, and even simulate peace. Understanding how language functions, especially in political and media contexts, is essential for developing critical thinking and mental resilience. When we decode the structures behind persuasive messages, we are not just analyzing communication, we are protecting our minds from manipulation and learning how influence truly works. If you like the subject and think it's relevant for other people to be aware of the speeches that are made to the population, share this video with those close to you, it's extremely important. If this content helped open your eyes or gave you a new perspective, don't forget to like this video, leave a comment below with your thoughts or questions, and share it with someone who needs to see it. Every action you take helps strengthen this channel and allows these messages to reach more people who are hungry for truth and depth. Make sure you're subscribed and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next analysis. There's much more to uncover, and the more we understand, the harder it becomes to be controlled.